Hey guys, happy May. Crazy. Anybody feel like the first quarter just zoomed by and already a third of the way through second quarter? It's just crazy how quickly time goes. And I love God's word and how applicable it is. So I want to read to you what I was reading this morning. The reason I noticed it is because I have been reading the word with the whole idea of like in the background so that I'm thinking about what that looks like. And so I want to read to you what I read earlier this morning from Psalm 39, which is such a great reminder. It's verses 4 through, I think it's 6. It says, Lord, let me know my end, and what is the measure of my days? Let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a few handbreadths, and my lifetime is as nothing in your sight. Surely everyone stands as a mere breath. And then I love it says the word Salah, which if you ever notice that in Psalms, it means like pause and reflect. So like that's intentional to like don't rush through it, but like stop and think about how quickly time passes, right? We're at another month already. And we know May is going to be over before we know it, and then June, and then July, and then before we know it, we're in the fall and into a new year. And then I thought this was really interesting. So after he tells us to reflect on how short our life is compared to eternity, right? Compared to God's timeline. Listen to what he says. He says, surely everyone goes about like a shadow. Surely for nothing they are in turmoil. They heap up and do not know who will gather. And that really like stood out to me. I made a note in my journal this morning. I'm like, wow, like, yeah, we toil for a lot of things and we are in turmoil over a lot of things as well, right? And really, those things aren't going to last anyway. And we gather up all these things, right, that we spend all of our time and attention and money on, and there's no U-Haul at the end of a hearse. So that is not going to be going with us. And so that was just a great reminder that we focus on what's in front of us, right? Because God's given us the season we're in and the very specific people and things he's called us to steward well, but we always keep eternity in mind as well, right? That's why we always talk about in this season and in light of eternity, because this life, this season, but also this life is not going to last forever, but eternity is. And so are we using our time in such a way that we are building towards his kingdom, that we're building towards eternity? So that was from Psalm 39. If you want to go back and do your own Salah reflection on that, I highly recommend doing that. And if you guys saw, I put a post in the group today. I thought it would be a great exercise at the beginning of the month to like pause before we jump in, right? Like it's so great to like turn the calendar and have this fresh month in front of you, or maybe you turn the calendar and you went, oh no, right? Like I forgot about all these things. That's okay. We're going to work on that tonight with the way that we start focused. But what I want us to start getting the habit of doing is pausing first before we jump and asking some questions. And we've talked about these in various like applications before. Looking back at the past month, or maybe even the months that have led up till now, like what are you grateful for? Like really stopping to be grateful for what happened in April, or even March, or February, or January, or in the past year, but just looking back and being grateful and not missing the things that God put in front of us. Then looking ahead, whether it's ahead into the month of May or into June or July or what's coming beyond that, and just having faith, because we can't control it. We can't change what's going to happen. We don't know all that those months are going to hold, but we know the one who does, right? And then we have this moment, right? Which really all we have is like right now, right? Like we don't even have May 2nd in control. Like all I can do is what I'm doing this very moment, whether you're on here live or whether you're watching the replay in another day in May. What am I doing right now? How am I being and showing up fully present right now to be a good steward of the time that God has given me? Okay, so I want you to think about that. I would challenge you to go into the group, even if you're watching this or listening to this after May 1st, that's okay. Go back and reflect. What are you grateful for from the past? What are you having faith about that's coming up? And how are you wanting to be present in the present? Present in the present, right? Easy way to remember it. So, all right. Well, Danielle, I am glad that you are on live tonight because, drum roll, our Lila of the month for the month of April is Danielle Fox. Woohoo! Right? So I always reward someone who's been engaging, who's been coming in. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to be at every post or you have to be answering every question, but when you are coming in and gleaning information and sharing, what you're learning or sharing your questions, you are going to see so much more growth. So every month I pick someone who I've seen engaged inside the group to be our Lila of the month. And that means that you get a live 15-minute coaching call with me that we do live inside the group. So that way it doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everybody, because chances are something you're working on, or maybe a principle that applies to something you're working on, is also going to be helpful for someone else. So Danielle, you get to kind of think through. I know you've got lots of transitions and changes, so lots of things we could talk about. So I will message you afterwards, but be thinking about what might be something you want some specific input on. And then we will set up a time that we can hop in the group and do it live, and then it will live on inside of here. So congratulations. And this is a new month. So anybody can get in on the month of May to be our Lila of the month. How do you get in? You comment on posts. You can post yourself. You invite people who join the group. You share out the group to other people. Like whenever you're coming in, you're commenting other people's comments. I love when I see the interaction conversations going on back and forth. It's like, oh, this person and this person, like they're connecting, right? And seeing those relationships being built. So that's what we're going to be doing. So how does May feel when you look ahead at May? And Danielle, you're on live, so if you want to unmute and talk, you can, or I can just ask questions like, hypothetically for people who are watching the replay. Do you want to share, like, kind of when you think about and turn that page today, what feeling came up for you?
A lot of feelings, because it's my daughter's senior dance open house is this Friday night. And so we're in the midst of having pictures spread out all over our temporary kitchen table of trying to put together her like open house poster board. And so I've got pictures of from when she was a baby to now, and they're spread out all over my table. And then after that, she has something else go like an awards night, and then she has her 18th birthday, and then my family comes into town and it's graduation, and then it's her dance recital weekend and her senior solo, and then we're in June. So,
and you're moving. So for people who are listening and don't know Danielle personally, if you notice, she said on my temporary kitchen table, because where she's living right now is not her forever home. She's from Ohio, building a house in South Carolina. I'm like, yes, get out of the Midwest and go somewhere where it's going to be warmer, more months of the year, right? So she's also navigating life in not her own space with all her own stuff. So lots of really cool opportunities. I don't know about you, Danielle, but like last summer, my daughter and I traveled for 3 weeks, and my husband and I traveled for 3 weeks, and then I had something else going on that I was kind of unplugged. And it was almost really refreshing to not have all my normal stuff and only be responsible for like a few things. For me, it was a carry-on suitcase, so I know it's more than that for you right now. And you've got lots of, things you're thinking of in your head, but like maybe just like lean into just I don't have to like maintain a whole house right now. I just have to take care of whatever fits inside the temporary space that I have. And now it can allow you to be more present with your daughter and celebrating her ending of this chapter and starting of a new chapter. So yeah, I'm just thinking, if I'm in your head, it could be a lot of overwhelm. Like, oh my goodness, there are a lot of things this month. It could be like a lot of sadness because it's, the end of a chapter and her moving on to that next chapter. And I don't know if that means her being away from you or if what that looks like, but there are a lot of things and emotions that can go in there. And none of them are wrong or bad, right? I always say emotions are just signals, right? And when we pay attention to how we're feeling, then we know like how we need to respond. So if we're sad about something, that's okay, right? And then, say, okay, so what can I do with this? Don't stay stuck in that. Or if we're overwhelmed by something, it's okay to feel overwhelmed, and then let that be what like moves you to having a plan. So that way you don't feel like you're chasing your time. I had somebody tell me this morning that she feels like she's chasing her time right now. And I was like, that's a really interesting way of saying it. I've totally felt that before, where you feel like you're just trying to catch up and time is in front of you and you like can never quite, get there, right? So we're still finishing up. Actually, we're going to finish the ruthless elimination of hurry in the month of May. And I was just thinking about this, like, does May feel hurried? Because even if you're not moving like Danielle, even if you don't have a daughter graduating, May tends to be that month where there's graduations and there's parties and maybe weddings are starting and end of the year, all the things. And, the final whatevers for all the programs at church because everybody's going to take a break for the summer. And so May can be like this really busy hustle, hurry, like, okay, I'm just going to run to keep up with all the things I have to be going to. And one of the things we've been learning as we've been reading this book, Jesus was never too busy. He was never hurried, right? He was present at the moment. And wow, what a great example, right? And I mean, obviously he was fully God as well. So he didn't struggle with sin like we do, even though it was around him, right? But he knew what his mission was. He knew what his purpose was. And then that's where he put his time and attention. And he didn't let the other things that didn't matter, like get in the way, distract him or anything like that. Right. And so I kind of wanted to have that mindset as we go into May, because this can be a really busy time and it can be really easy to feel scattered and all over the place if we're not focused on what really matters. So that's what we're going to work on as we go through kind of our working through the month time tonight. What really matters in front of me? How do I want to be present in the moment? Right. I'm probably not going to execute perfectly like Jesus, but I can be working towards that. Right. I can be saying, God, what do you want me to focus on? And what do you want me to let go of? We'll talk about that tonight too. So before we do that, I want to tell you two things. One, we have 2 book club conversations left, and then we're done with this book. So May 8th, so that's a week from today, we are discussing the chapter on simplicity. And I actually just led a whole workshop for the ladies at our church on this topic. And I pulled some things from this chapter and another book that I've been reading on this. And it's really around our stuff. Okay. So when we simplify our stuff, which Danielle, you're experiencing right now, you have a great reason to go through and purge, right? What do I really want to take into my new home and have to be responsible for? Our stuff like demands our time and attention, right? So how can we start simplifying our stuff so that we have more to invest in what matters? And then the last book club discussion is on, which is the date, the 22nd. And that one is going to be about slowing. So this one's about our time, our calendar, right? Our pace of life. How are we slowing down instead of like the frantic speeding up like it feels like the rest of the world around us is doing? So last 2 conversations going on here, which reminds me, I'm going to put a poll out because attendance on book club has been off and on, which I get it. Life happens, right? If book club is something that you want to keep doing, I want you to vote yes on that. If it's not, or if you just feel like, let's take the summer off because my schedule is going to be all over the place. We usually meet twice a month at about 12 noon Central Time. So it's not like all the time. I will still keep reading books on my own, whether or not we're doing this together or not. So I'll put it out there in the group. If you are interested in being part of the book club over June, July, August, please say so. My internet connection is unstable, so forgive me if it got a little wonky there. If you're not, that's okay too. You can let me know, hey, Lissa, not for the summer, but yes, in the fall. Or maybe you're just like, Lissa, I'm not probably ever going to do book club. And that's okay. Like, I'm going to keep like taking the pulse of the group and seeing what's been, I don't know about you. I mean, I don't care if it's just me. I have a great time reading and talking and reflecting on it. So, but I don't want to keep showing up, if it's just me more times than not. So anyway, I'll love you guys to give some input. Also, I'm really glad Danielle is on tonight because I don't know if I told you this, Danielle, but remember when you shared with me that there was a Ruthless Elimination of Hurry study on the Bible app? Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, like that's really powerful. So I went through it a couple weeks ago, really, really liked it and thought, let's do that as our challenge in the month of May inside of our community. So we're going to do a 5-day Let's Ruthlessly Eliminate Hurry challenge. And let me just quick tell you what's going to be happening. All you're going to do each day for 5 days, we're going to start on May 15th. So it's going to be Monday through Friday of that week after Mother's Day. We're going to go on the Bible app and read the devotional for the day. It's just literally probably like 5 minutes. And then there's usually like 2, some of the days I think had 3 scriptures. And then there's always a question to keep in mind as you're reading. And he gives us something to do. Okay. So it's going to be, and you get to do this on whatever your time is. So if you are a first thing in the morning girl, great. If you're a mid-morning or over lunch or afternoon or evening, it doesn't matter. You get to do that part on your own. And then inside the group each day, I will post what the homework assignment is from what we were challenged to do by him. And you can then comment down the bottom about what you did in regards to that. And what we're going to do is I'll have some prizes during the week. And then for someone who's done the homework all week, I'm going to be doing a drawing for a copy of the book and I'll send that to you. And if you already have a copy, great, give it to somebody who needs it. Like I got this because my dad thought I needed it and he was right. So maybe, you know, somebody else needs it, that you've been sharing this with or not sharing it with who needs to, or maybe you're the one who needs it. So anyway, yeah, I thought that'd be a really fun way to kind of celebrate there. Here's the thing. The challenge is free. So is the community. So who do you know who might want to also ruthlessly eliminate hurry? I love that he uses the word ruthless, because we have to like be like, I got my gloves on, like, because otherwise the culture and our natural sin tendencies and things like that are always going to move us towards hurry. So we have to be really intentional, ruthlessly intentional about eliminating the hurry, right? So I know when it's something like this, it is so much like better and easier and more effective when we do something like this together, right? So who do you know who might also want to ruthlessly eliminate hurry? If you are looking on the app or on the desktop, if you go up to the menu, you should have a personalized invite link. Okay, so if you send that to them and they join, it will tell me, hey, this person joined because they were referred by Danielle Fox. Great, right? Then I can give you credit and give you a thank you. And I know I can connect with that person and say, oh, I'm so glad Danielle invited you and whatever. I'm also going to give extra drawing entries for people who have invited people that join the group. Okay, so that's a little extra incentive towards the prizes that'll be inside of that challenge. Like, let's not keep this to just the 43 people who are in here. Let's open this up to more people so they can come join us. So be thinking about, they can come join us now. Like, here's my recommendation. Today is May 1st. Do not wait till May 14th to send a link to somebody, hey, you should come join this, because chances are they're going to put it off and they're going to forget. But if you send it to them now and they come into the group, then they can start, you know, learning and growing and having fun with us. And then they'll be here when we start talking about the challenge. So start putting that out there and thinking about, you know, what that would look like. Okay, the only other informational thing I want to share about is we are almost to 10,000 downloads on the Redeem Her Time podcast. So if you have not already left a 5-star written review, I would so appreciate that, because what it does is it tells the algorithm that this is something good, and it will help more busy Christian women find the podcast, which is really the main place. I'm not on social. If you follow me on social, you'll see something once in a while. But it just, the more that I evaluated my time, it was not the best return on investment. And so the podcast is really the main place where I'm putting content out. And I pour a lot of time and attention into what I share and how I prepare for that, so that people can really grow for free, right? Like, you could do everything that we talk about inside the group coaching program for free if you just listen and then you actually do it. The thing is, we don't usually do it, right? So that's why we bring people in the community, and that's why we also have the group coaching program. But if you can help me get up to 10,000 downloads, that'd be awesome. So you can leave a review, you can share the podcast, or maybe share a specific episode. I do that with people all the time. I'll listen to something and I'll send them a link to the episode. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just listened to this. I totally thought of you. You might want to give this a listen, right? So that's a great way to do that. We'll be doing some fun things to celebrate, because I know we'll be there before June. So we'll be doing some fun things to celebrate once we get into June that we hit that. So the other thing that I'm doing as well, just to kind of get some more engagement around what we're talking about in the podcast, every podcast, starting with this next week, I am putting a question of the day. I'm telling the question of the day at the end of the episode, and then that's what's going to go on the post inside the community. Okay, so that's where then you're already a member. If you're listening to this, you just go right to that post and then you can answer, right? For people who aren't members yet, I'm hoping that's going to encourage them to come on in and join us, because this is the after party, right? Where we not just hear this in one ear and out the other, but we're actually start getting into our hearts and then doing something with our hands. So be watching for that, because I just want to make sure we're getting tons of value out of what God is teaching us and what's happening. So any questions, Danielle, on any of that stuff? Was that stuff clear? Just so I can take a drink and not hear myself talk for a second.
Yeah, it's all clear. And I actually have been reading the book. I haven't been able to show up to book club, but I have put it on my calendar for May. This month is the good thing about being not with my whole family right now. And that's part of what I'm learning is, like, I'm told my husband the other day, I'm like, I just want to be with you again. And like, I can't wait till, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to say I can't wait till June, because there's a reason for the season I'm in right now. And there's a reason I'm here in Ohio, and there's a reason I'm doing this, and I'm going to enjoy every single moment, and June will be here, and that's okay. And like, I'm not going to wish these days away. And I'm like, I still miss you, but I'm not going to wish my days away. I'm going to be present, and then I'll be present when I get there. So, but being that I have so much not so much time on my hands, but I don't have all the demands on my time
Yeah.
right now
Yep.
that I typically have, because it's half the time it's just me. Like even my daughter's with her dad.
Sure.
So half the time, like I have my whole evening free. I could sit and like binge, marathon episodes on TV, or I can take time to work my business, or I can take time to spend more time in scripture, or I can take time. So like I have actually been trying to like schedule in those, and I do like my work hours. My day is structured so that I can do my full-time job basically from 8 to 4, and then from 4 to 6, I do my personal clients, and then my evenings are for whatever else. And so my 8 to 4 is kind of really structured, but because I have a lot of my evenings free, I can work a little bit extra in the evening. So I can block in that hour during the day and take that hour and come to book club. So
Yeah,
I
I
do
love
have it
that.
on for May to come to those two, because I'm really enjoying the book a lot. Like I keep highlighting things and
Oh,
starring things. And I'll write phrases that he says across the top of the page. So when I'm flipping through, like I see that phrase right away, and
totally.
I needed that book. So I'm very glad that you have done book
Oh,
club.
I'm so glad.
Every time I am reading the book with you,
Yeah.
and really excited about it.
And that's why we always do a replay, right? Because I know life happens. Sometimes you've got kids, you've got work, you've got travels, you've got whatever. And so we can't always do that. So there's always a replay for those as well. So if you're listening and you're like, yeah, I haven't been able to get on, you can go back to the first one. Maybe you didn't even read the book and you just want to put the replay in your ear and let it be like a Cliff Notes version. Because there's something about, like audiobooks are great. You can take them on the go with you. You can't mark them up like Danielle and I are doing, but you can at least get the content in your head. And then, you'll probably want to go get your own copy or win a copy in our challenge. So you can do either one of those. And I'm going to challenge you, Danielle. This is just some free coaching here right now from something I learned last year when I had that time when I was only responsible, right, for my little carry-on suitcase. And that's everything else was like, that, not there. When I came back from that first 3-week trip, I remember sitting on my back porch and I remember saying, I don't want to just jump right back into life the way it was. Like there was a freshness, there was a lightness, there was a difference that I felt and a way that I was able to engage that I wasn't before when I was, so encumbered by all the things. And while we can't necessarily live in vacation mode forever, you're not going to live in transition mode forever. I'm going to challenge you, like as you are starting to get closer to June and starting to move, to start thinking about what are the things that I don't want to pick back up again? What are the responsibilities I don't want to pick up back up again? What's the stuff that I don't want to be responsible for again? What are the commitments that, you have a total fresh slate because you're moving to a new state where I don't even know if you know anybody besides your husband. So maybe nobody's going to be knocking on your door for a while, right? But just, so often we just go right back to our stuff and we fill our plate right back up again, and just what a great opportunity to say, what am I not going to pick up? And what do I really want to create space for? And kind of looking at it from both ways so that I don't just go from, well, this is how it was in this time. And now I'm back to hustle, hurry. My life is always full of, my time's always full of something, to kind of, how can I blend this? How can I pull more of this kind of life into my everyday life instead of waiting until I go on vacation? I think that's the one thing that we do, right? It's like, oh, when I go on vacation, I finally make time for me and make time for these relationships and make time to, do these other things. Well, why can't I do that, even sometimes now? So anyway, that was just something that really was very impactful for me, because when you're experiencing life without certain things, it gives you that space to kind of see and feel, what things are like. So yeah. Okay, so let's look at the month of May. If you are watching the replay or whatever, if you didn't download this, I will put all this stuff in the notes that goes around this replay, but the focus system is just kind of the format that we use each month. You can use this to preview your month, your week, or your day, or even like the next 5 minutes if you really want to. But this is just a way to kind of help we're going to start with a brain dump. So we get everything out of here onto here. And I'm saying down here because I have this giant like desk plan, like desk calendar. And at first I was like, this thing is way too big. And I was thinking about this today because I'm getting close, because it was one of those like a school year one. So I think July might be the last one. I'm like, I got to order another one of these because this has been so helpful to like see my month in front of me. I still have my paper planner next to me, right? But here I can like see how everything lays out. And it really makes a difference when you're looking ahead. So The first thing we're going to do, the tip it says at the top, is to start with a brain dump of all the things. Okay, Danielle, you got a lot in your head and mind. I have a lot of things on my plate right now as well. So I'm just gonna set a timer for the next 4 minutes, and we're just gonna brain dump. So if you're listening to this replay, grab a piece of paper and brain dump. I'm literally doing my brain dump in the notes, ideas, and to-dos section of this giant calendar. So that way it's here and I can see it to come back to it if I need to, right? But we're gonna do something with what goes in the brain dump in a minute. First, we got to get it out of here and get it somewhere here. Okay, so anything that comes to mind when you think about the next month or so, right? You may want to think a little bit into June, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. Don't forget Mother's Day. I'm writing that down just to make sure I remember to go get cards for my mom and my mother-in-law.
I actually did that the other day when I was at the store because I never remember to do it on time.
It'll take about another minute or so. Which just prompted me to text somebody who's supposed to check their calendar tonight so we can put that on the calendar. So okay, that may have been enough time. It may not have been, but we're going to go ahead and start working through the process, and you can, come back with that brain dump. Now we're not going to leave things in a list because I am anti to-do lists for a lot of reasons. I did a podcast about a detoxing from to-do lists and why you would want to do that and how it is actually possible. My goal is to help women get rid of like 95% of the things in your to-do list. And there's a way that we do that. And that's something I'm teaching inside the Redeem for Time program. So Danielle, be holding on because that'll be coming soon. But my question for you is, now that you're looking at the month of May, how are things feeling? Sometimes seeing it on paper can be a little overwhelming. And sometimes I actually found as I was writing things down, I was like, oh, like, I don't really feel like I have as much as I thought I did. So it's really interesting. Sometimes I think we, when it's all in our head, number one, it's easy to forget. But number two, I think it's either easy to think that it's more than it really is, right? And then we put things off because we think it's so much and we can't ever, get to it. Or it's easy to think, oh, I got this, right? And then we find by the second half of the month, we're chasing time, trying to fit everything in before the deadlines are coming up. So sometimes it's a little bit of both, right? And again, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be that flag, right? That tells us what we need to do to respond to that. But the first question on our focus system is not how it feels right now. It's actually, how do I want this month to feel? Okay. So for example, like in Danielle, in your case, right, you're looking ahead at especially all these things focused on your daughter and her finishing up dance, which has been a big chapter of her life, it sounds like, and high school and, and all those things. I want you to come up with a word or maybe a short phrase that is how you want this month to feel. So for you, it could be related to that. Maybe it's something, in a different avenue that's a little bit bigger. But what this word or phrase becomes is like an anchor point, right? It's a way for us to keep coming and checking back in. So for example, if your word is, I want my month to feel present, right? Then you have that word to come back to. Hey, how can I be present today? How was I present this week? How will I be present next week? How can I be present in this next hour or at this next event, right? It's that anchor word that keeps bringing you back. And then when something comes across your plate that wasn't already part of your plan for the month, you can ask yourself the question, if I say yes to this, will it help me be present? Or is this going to distract me and take me away from this? So having that anchor word or phrase, I find is really, really helpful because it's something to kind of keep coming to check ourselves in with. And sometimes it changes during the month, right? So just because you pick something now doesn't mean it's going to necessarily be what you need all month long. Maybe it shifts. Maybe you've got, the first half is focused in one way and then the second half is in another way. So it's not in stone. I think the word that came to me is engaging. Like whether it's inside of our community or inside the group coaching, whether it's with the podcast and the challenge, my daughter coming home from college. And so her being home for the summer, just some stuff that my husband and I have going on that we're doing. I just, want to be like wherever I am, I want to be showing up, but also really engaging and inviting other people to engage. So I think that's going to be my word this month. Do you have a word that you want to share, Danielle, or a phrase? Anything coming to you?
I think my phrase is going to be in the moment because I want to stay in the moment, whatever that moment is. If it's a moment that, graduation or dance, or maybe it's client focused, or maybe it's, I don't want to be distracted by things that are not important for what's happening right now.
I love that. Yeah. And that's really setting your intention for the month, right? Because you can decide that even before you know what this month holds, right? You can just decide like, this is how I want it to be. And then that allows us to respond when things come across our path that maybe we didn't expect instead of react, right? And say, okay, so if this is my moment right now, how can I be in the moment? So I love that. That's beautiful. Okay. O is for one thing. So this is spelling out the word focus, right? Because we want to make sure that we're not distracted and scattered all over the place. We want to make sure we're focusing in. So what I always like for you to do is to identify what's the one thing. Now, if you were part of the book club, the last book we read the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, really good book, right? His question is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And I like to add or better, right? So what is one thing that, like this is something that really, if I, made sure I gave attention to this, it doesn't mean it has to consume your whole month, right? But just something that would really kind of maybe set the tone for other things in the month, or would really help to, put some things in place that actually will maybe help take care of other things. So the question is, what's your one thing? So we want to identify what matters most looking forward to this month, right? What really matters most? It could be a personal thing. It could be a professional thing. It could be a health thing. It can be in any of the 8 key areas, really. Maybe it's something faith related. For me, it's going to be systemizing my business. So I was a part of a mastermind in Q1. And right at the end, we started talking about creating some systems for our business. And I purchased the course, but I knew I couldn't do it in April because I was launching the group coaching program. So May is when I'm going to dive into that course and start, applying it to my business. And I know it will make everything else in my business easier because I will have a system and a place where everything lives. And, I will know exactly when and where these things are being taken care of. So first question is, what's your one thing? The next question is, what will you do? right? So once we know what it is, what are you actually going to do that's going to move you towards that? Maybe you complete the whole one thing this month. Maybe it only takes you like an hour. I mean, sometimes they're not like, going to consume a whole month, but what are you going to do? Maybe you're not going to finish it this month, and that's okay too. So what are you going to do this month, and when will you do it, right? What will you do and when will you do it? That's key, because if we just kind of put it in the list, we don't really have a plan as to where it's going to go. It might just get dropped, when push comes to shove. So thinking ahead about that, because we want to make sure that goes on our calendar first, blocking out time for that before we put, a lot of other things on there. So that way it gets the time and attention it needs. So what's your one thing? What will you do? When will you do it? Like, I'm going to go and just check right now. I can't minimize Zoom, but I can close it. Let's see, I can move our screen over a little bit. And see like how many modules this course is. So that way I can kind of guesstimate, like how am I going to break this up? And can I get this all done in the month of May, or this is going to be, carrying over. So maybe you have something you can look ahead at, or if you have your calendar in front of you, then I highly recommend that you go ahead and block out time, at least for the first couple of weeks, as to when you're going to work on that thing, or when you're going to show up for that, right? If it's already an event that's scheduled. Or hope I remembered the right username and password. Oh, good, I did. I've got this thing on my computer. It's called 1Password. No, it's called Password One or something like that. But for some reason, it won't autofill them anymore, and I can't figure out why. I need to figure out how to contact customer service. It used to be great, and now it's like doing nothing. Okay, so like I'm looking at mine. Mine is 4 weeks. So I know I can't do it this week because I'm actually heading out of town tomorrow for a funeral. So of course that wasn't part of my plan, but that's okay, because we do those things for people that mean a lot to us. And then I'm going out of town this weekend. So mine is going to start next week. So now I'm going to look at my calendar and see, can I get 4 modules in? Yeah, I can, because there's still a couple of days. There's still like half of a week, the end of May. And sometimes you make a plan and then you have to adjust it a little bit. That's okay. Remember, I like to do my stuff in pencil because maybe I don't get all of module 1 done in the week that I planned, and that's okay. So it's having that intention and that plan ahead of time, what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. You want to share anything about your one thing, Danielle, before we move on?
I always have a hard time with this question, but for this month, I think my one thing is going to be to really participate in the group coaching program. And even as I say that, I have a chiropractor appointment at noon on Thursday that was already scheduled there. I won't be scheduling any new ones there, but it was already scheduled before I had the.
So what you do is you're going to schedule the replay time for that day, right? Yeah.
So, and then what I will do is do the homework, read the book, the Ruthless Elimination book as well. And then when will I do it? It's going to be daily. So I'm going to schedule it. Like this week we have all the modules, so there's more to do every day. Some of the weeks, like last week, we only had 3 modules, but I'm trying to read at least like a chapter in the book every day. So if I'm working on a module one day, then the next day I'm reading a chapter in the book, and then I might work on a module. So like daily, I'm doing something that's related to the course, because like you said, if you don't, you'll only get out of it what you put into it. And so I want to really schedule my time to make sure that I'm really truly participating.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Because otherwise, if we just kind of have it in the back of our head, I'm going to get to this, right? Life happens and we never get to it. I was telling my husband today, I'm like, honey, you're my best example for coaching. I'm like, let me give you some free coaching, honey. Because he's got so many things on his plate, right? But he has no written plan anywhere. And I'm like, you're driving me crazy, because then it affects me, right? because not like after this call, I have to do something for him that has to be done tonight. I'm like, oh, why are we deciding this today? Right. But anyway, but I said to him, yeah, like decide, you know, like figure out what you need to do. Like, what are the priorities, right? Because he's got, I mean, they're in all different directions, right? What are there any urgent things that need to happen based on timelines? And then block out that time. So that way he knows, hey, when I get home from work today, I'm going to work on, you know, X, Y, and Z or P, Q, and R, you know, or whatever. And so it's not like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then you end up wasting your time in something that doesn't matter. And then you're like, shoot, I totally forgot I had to do that, you know? So I love that, you know, and I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning who's also going through a program. She's going to do our program after she's done with that one. But she said every day she blocks off like 2 hours for quiet time and working on that program. And so, yeah, she doesn't necessarily have to say I'm doing this module on this day, but she just knows I do my quiet time in the first part, you know, this section, this time, this part of the time, and then I work on whatever the next thing is for the program I'm doing. And so it's time blocked off that is only for those things. And here's where, right, we get protective around our one thing. We have to be mama bear and say, if this really matters, I'm going to protect these boundaries. Now, life happens and we have to go out of town for a funeral, or we have to respond to, you know, some situation or something. Of course you do that, but then all you do is you move that time block somewhere else because you already said whatever's in here matters. So I love that. Okay, C is for commitments. So looking ahead to the month of May, what have you committed to, right? Maybe it's an appointment that you have. So like you talked about your chiropractor. Maybe it's, you know, someplace you have to show up, like an event. You know, I'm the queen of, or used to be like, oh yeah, I've got that, right? Like at church, they were announcing some dates yesterday for stuff coming up over the summer. And so I came home and I wrote on my calendar because if I didn't, I wasn't going to remember them. So who have you already said yes to? Whether it's a meetings, maybe it's work related, or maybe it's church related, or maybe it's family related, or maybe it's just an appointment you have for yourself. Maybe it's a commitment you're making to yourself. Like that's good, right? Maybe like you said, a class or group that you're showing up to. Maybe it's date nights for those of us who are in the same state with our hubby, or maybe you do some virtual thing with your hubby to, you know, make sure you guys get some connection time. But put those things in. So like date nights is one of those things that here's the crazy thing. Listen to this. I figured this out today. Since the middle of January, we have been gone. And most of the time it's been together. There were 2 times where one time it was just him, and one time it was just me. Since the middle of January, every 14 days, we have been leaving to go to another state or another country. And after this weekend, which is our last scheduled trip, I'm not having to leave the state for the next month and a half. I'm like, yes. So anyway, date nights have kind of been a little hit and miss. We did have one last week because we got together with some friends and that was really fun. But that's one thing that I'm making sure to put in my calendar now, because otherwise, you know, that's a commitment I'm making to myself and to him, but life can happen and we get out of the habit of it. So any other commitments on here? I just listed appointments, meetings, work, class, dates, but it could be anything else. It could be kid related, you related, church related, whatever. Who have you said yes to? Sometimes we say yes to somebody on the fly and then we forget we said yes to them. And then we're like, oh shoot, I didn't ever write that down. I just had an episode. Well, no, actually that's episode coming out on Tuesday about what happened when I was traveling, and I double booked myself twice and I overlooked something really important, like all within the same couple of days. And I was like, because I was trying to keep it all up here, right? And it doesn't work. There's too much going on. Okay, U is for upcoming. So this is where, like, you know, looking ahead, Mother's Day. Okay, yeah, I need to get cards. We're leaving town on Friday, first thing Friday morning, and we're not going to get back till late Sunday night. And I would like to have them out by early next week. So I am going to go pick up Mother's Day cards on the way to church when I teach preschoolers on Wednesday, which is after I get home from Michigan tomorrow on Wednesday. But so something coming up, or maybe even think ahead. I like to kind of like take a little peek at like the first week or 2 of June, because sometimes like my son's birthday is on the 1st of February, right? And I can't tell you how many years my mother-in-law would turn the calendar and then she'd be like, oh, it's your son's birthday today. Like I wasn't, you know, because we just don't look ahead, right? So I kind of like to like look a little bit ahead. So that way I'm paying attention to what's coming up. So give you a minute to jot down any things that you know are upcoming. especially something you need to prepare for, right? Maybe you're just thinking about it. Maybe you physically have to do something for it, but thinking about what's coming up that I want to start, at least get on my radar right now. Maybe I'm not doing anything about it yet, but putting on my radar, I can start, I can say, okay, now I'm going to schedule some time in a week or two when I actually need to give that attention. That way we try to avoid the, oh my goodness, I totally forgot until the last minute and then we're scrambling conundrum. Okay, and then S is for simplify. This is my favorite part of this. Not that I don't like the other parts of it, but here's where we go back to that to-do list or that brain dump list that you had, right? And maybe even the things that you didn't write down that are just like the regular daily things that you didn't write because, they're kind of always running in the background. And I want you to go through with the 4 Ds, right? So the first one is, what can I delete? Like this month, maybe it was something you wrote down that just doesn't ever need to be done. And for whatever reason, you had in your mind that this should be done in May. Put a big line through it. Like, that's okay. Not everything that we think of has to be done. Not everything that other people think we should do has to be done either. Let me just remind you of that, right? We talk about obligations. We talk about expectations a lot. So is there anything that either just got brain dumped down that doesn't ever need to be done? Or that's in, even if it's just kind of on that repeat thing, like this is just something I do on a regular basis. And you know what? Here's how you can get satisfaction. Write it down on your list and then cross it off, because it like feels good to like write it down and see that big line through it and go, this is something I'm just letting go of. Doesn't matter. Sometimes these are hard things to find. So I'm going to challenge you to really be thinking about it as you're going through your day, your week, your month. Are there things I'm doing that if I didn't do them, it wouldn't throw the earth off its axis? Like, nobody probably else would notice. It wouldn't really make it that big of a difference. It really isn't that productive for me. It really isn't that fruitful for me. It just doesn't need to really be on my plate. There's a lot of freedom in just saying, N-O. What can I delete? Could also be something that you said yes to, and you're feeling like, yeah, I gave a yes to somebody, but it wasn't my best yes, which is a book I'd like to do in book club coming up. It's okay to graciously back out and say, you know what, I'm reevaluating the season I'm in, and I'm not able to do that anymore. And just want to let you know it's okay. Okay. Number 2, I actually talked to somebody about this one today. What can I delegate? So those things that didn't get crossed off the list because they simply must be done. Here's the question you ask yourself for delegate. Am I the only person on the planet who can do it? I mean, sometimes I think we are, right? Like we think I'm the only person who can clean my house. I'm the only person who can cook my food. I'm the only person who can write my email or, pay my bill or whatever it is. But really, especially with technology, there are a lot of ways that we can delegate. Sometimes it's hiring somebody to do something virtually or actually coming into our home and doing it. Sometimes it's creating a system around it. So, I don't have to think about it all the time. Like simple thing that like my dog getting that whatever thing for flea, ticks or worms, or I think it's probably the worm thing or whatever. It's once a month. I'd always forget. So they actually give you like these little stickers. Guess what? I just put the stickers on my calendar. So now I don't have to like remember myself. I just, oh, there it is, right? I created a system. So that way I didn't have to think about when I have to give my dog that medicine. So sometimes it's just a system. Maybe there are people in your home, if you are living in your home, but there are people around you who like, mom doesn't have to do everything. Maybe you can start delegating some more to kids or grandkids or significant others or people who are appreciating the benefits of what you do. So what can you delegate? It's important, but you're not the only one who can do it. Okay, the next one is, what can I delay? So this one is really refreshing as well. You're not saying no to it because it still matters and you still at this point feel like you have to do it. Or maybe you're going to delegate it, but you can't afford to pay someone or you don't have the time to give it right now. We're going to not procrastinate. Procrastinating is stuff I know I should be doing now and I'm just not doing it. That's way different, right? And then I go watch Netflix for 5 hours instead of the thing I should be doing. Delaying is I'm intentionally picking this thing off my list and I'm putting it over in a better place, right? So maybe it's like for me, my Systemize Your Business course, I knew that April was not going to be the month to do it because we had 2 trips and I had 2 women's events that I was leading. So I picked it up and I put it down for May, and I put it on my calendar for May, and now I have a plan for carrying it out in May. Sometimes you pick something up, you put it down a month from now, 2 months from now, maybe 6 months from now, and you get to that time and it's still not a good time. That's okay. You can pick it up and move it again. But here's the challenge. My friend taught me this a couple weeks ago. I thought it was brilliant. Every time you delay that thing, somehow mark it with a star or a certain color or whatever it is. If you find you have 3 stars next to that thing, I want you to go back and ask, does this even need to be done? If it's been this easy for me to put off, and I've put it off 3 times now, is this really essential, or does this go under delete or delegate? Or do I just need to archive this and not, only if I ever really, really desperately need it will I come back to this? Okay, so I thought that was a really good rule of thumb. Is there anything on your list right now that you want to purposely delay, either because you can't give it the time and attention it needs now, or you want to give precious time and attention to the things that are only happening in this month, right? Like graduations and like these programs and open houses. Like, you only get one shot at that. So all those other things, they can wait till June because they're still going to be there. So sometimes it's because that thing needs more attention, and sometimes it's because something else needs more attention. So what can you delay? And then the last D, I think, is really important, because so often life is about one thing, task, whatever, after the other, but really making sure we have things on our list that we are delighting in. Or maybe the actual task is not that so delighting, but it's leading us towards something that will delight us, right? And as believers, what is on my list that's delighting to the Lord? What are things that are me using the gifts he's given me, or me using the resources and stewarding those in a way of me investing in the relationships that he's put in my life? It can be things, if it's delighting him, it's probably delighting us too. Right. But kind of saying, what do I have in here that's going to spark some joy, that's going to fill me up, that's going to, make sure that I'm not just ho-humming through the month. And it always makes it a little easier when you whistle while you work, right? So you may delight in the actual task, or it may be more in the outcome or result of it. Hey, that is the end of focus. So F is feel. How do I want this to feel and flow? O is your one thing, right? What matters most over the next month? C is your commitments, the things you've already said yes to. U is upcoming, what's coming up that you need to start thinking about or preparing for. And then S is simplify, going through with the 4 Ds to really make sure what's on your plate needs to be on your plate at this time. So any other thoughts, ideas, questions, concerns about May before we pray and dedicate it to the Lord? All right, well, let's pray, and then I'll let you guys get on with your month. Lord, thank you so much. God, I thank you that you are beyond time, and that you hold our hands, you hold our life in your hands, and you know the number of our days. So as we read in Psalm 39 to start tonight, I pray that you would just give us just a reminder to reflect on the brevity of the life we have here on this earth. And with that, then the urgency to really only invest in the people and things that matter most, and to not get all worried and toil and turmoil about the things that we're just trying to pile up that don't last beyond us anyway. I just ask your blessing over the month of May for everyone who's a part of our community, and those even that are yet to join us with a challenge coming up. I pray that you'll give us wisdom and discernment as things come across our path, that we will be able to know if they are from you, and how we should be responding to them. I pray they'll give us patience for when things don't always go according to plan. I pray that you'll give us joy, even in the times when it feels really hard to keep taking steps forward. And I pray that you'll just help us to keep focusing on building your kingdom and not ours, and bring us back together again to celebrate the start of a new month in June. we thank you that you know what this month holds, even when we don't. And so we trust you with even the plans that we've made today, knowing that you are the one that establishes them. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Happy May. Enjoy and have fun focusing on what matters most.